Welcome to all. This is the third session in the series, The Power of Positive Aging, a critically acclaimed book written by David Lurie. There's 6 building blocks to practice positive aging, and our last session was addressing the first block, tapping into your spirit. Today we will discuss the second building block, which is mindfulness. Welcome, David.
Thank you, and it's good to be here.
How crucial is mindfulness for practicing positive aging?
There is nothing more important than living in the present moment for older people dealing with aging. The good news is when you're older, growing old means a simpler way of life filled with fewer distractions. So it makes it easier for older adults to live in that present moment compared to when we were younger. We had to bring up a family, we had to go to work, we were occupied with all the family, social, and work responsibilities. So older adults, if they have a shot at living more in the present moment, they've got it because they have less distractions. So they're a good chance that they will be successful if they learn how to live in that present moment. And that's what mindfulness, our session today, is all about. Choosing to live in the past or or worry about the future is self-defeating for older people because it robs them truly of a chance of life. You only got one, and you want to live those twilight years as gracefully as you can. You want to enjoy every moment, and that's why it's important for older people to appreciate every moment in life. It's precious. So that really emphasizes the importance of trying to stay in that present moment rather than dwell in the past or worry about the future. Now, mindfulness itself is a term that we use for living in the present moment. Mindfulness means living in that present moment and awakening to experience. Mindfulness is realizing that you're not really your mind. You're not all those thoughts, those judgments, those distractions, those noise that's running through your head. Your awareness, that's what mindfulness is all about. It's the awareness of your mind's activities. You're just awareness. You're at peace if you can achieve it. So for our purposes, mindfulness is important because it creates the right mindset for successfully aging. And for our session, it creates the right mindset for positive aging.
So mindfulness seems to be gaining popularity in America. Is this trend supposed to continue?
Most definitely, mindfulness is very, very popular. It took America a very long time to catch on because it had been very popular in so many different civilizations throughout history and across the globe. But it's here in America. There's been a surge in popularity over the past 2 decades. The media, psychotherapy practices, the habits and practices of millions of ordinary people, especially the baby boomer population. Mindfulness is closely associated with Buddhism, Buddhist meditative practices. We mentioned meditation in our last episode when we discussed tapping into your spirit. We'll get more deep into meditation in this episode, in this session, because that's what mindfulness is all about. One of Buddhism's primary missions, and this is something a lot of people don't realize, is to deal with aging and finality. And mindfulness plays a critical role in that. Buddhism deals with suffering. Buddha himself, who was a prince in a royal family, had all the riches that he could want, observed a lot of his people were suffering, whether it was through life-threatening disease or starvation, whatever it was. He observed suffering, and he tried to understand, how do people cope with suffering? How can you deal with suffering in a positive way. And that gave rise to today's Buddhism. So this meditative practice has to do with learning to become more aware and live in that present moment in order to deal with suffering. And as we transfer that over to what our topic is, the power of positive aging, it has to do with how do you cope with aging, whether aging means physical decline, change in your appearance, maybe some mental decline, whatever it is, how do you cope with it? And the best way to cope, we learned last time, was to tap into your spirit and strengthen it. And now the second building block is live in that present moment. So an older person who's coping with the marks of aging can find a way to understand and overcome their suffering through acknowledgement using meditation and other spiritual practices like mindfulness. So ultimately, mindfulness of both Buddhism and even today's psychology practices, they're viewed as an important way to understand the nature of the self and to obtain spiritual well-being.
You're practicing mindfulness yourself. How has practicing mindfulness affected your personal life?
For me personally, mindfulness is everything. Living in the present moment is how I survived cancer. I had a serious cancer. This was 7, 8 years ago now. Time flies, doesn't it, when you're still here? Uh, Mindfulness helped me because when you have cancer or any life-threatening disease, or even if it's you're losing your mobility and you're forced to use a walker or a wheelchair, whatever the case may be for an older individual or for any adult or even a child facing physical issues, living in that present moment is the here and now. And it keeps you from distracting from what's really harming you. So for me, living in the present moment is how I survive cancer, and it's how I will survive and prosper in growing old. For me, the beauty of mindfulness and meditation is that after I meditate, and just for a few minutes, I mean, you can meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, depending on the person. But when I meditate, I have that sensation that I'm more than my physical body. And just that sensation is a psychological advantage that I want to have as I continue experiencing physical decline with aging. Because then you can focus on what's important in life, your spirit. You can strengthen your spirit while your physical body may be declining. And that's very important to a lot of us. So that's what mindfulness has done for my own personal life. And hopefully it's something that will help people in their lives as they age into their twilight years.
So, what are the ways to live in the present moment and to practice mindfulness?
Well, again, practice living in the present moment and you'll minimize your thoughts about your younger self. So if you have nothing to compare your older appearance to, you've got no benchmark, and thus there's no reason for negativity. And that's the whole key to the power of positive aging. We're trying to wipe out negative thoughts and replace them with positive thoughts as you age. Tapping into your spirit helped. Mindfulness is now the next building block. And there are hopefully, thankfully, there's several ways that people can live in the present moment and help themselves age more gracefully. The first is meditation. We've already mentioned meditation. What I'm going to do here today is just go a little deeper into meditation. I'm going to assume that most people listening right now have never meditated. That may not be true. There are a lot of people now in America that meditate. And whether it's true meditation or transcendental meditation or even yoga, meditation is very popular. But let's assume that you're first learning how to meditate. To begin, if you just meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that's a victory. Don't think about meditating for 30 minutes. It's very difficult to keep that mind clear of distractive thoughts when you're meditating as a beginner. So if you can just do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, it's a victory. So here's how to do it, a simple way. And there are many different ways, but here's my recommendation. You either sit or lie down comfortably. I do both. You close your eyes, breathe naturally. The key is focus on your breathing, the inhaling and the exhaling. Focus on the inhaling and exhaling. If you can focus on that, you'll start to wipe out all those other distractions that are running through your head. If you want to use a mantra, which was very popular in transcendental meditation, mantras like Om or I'm are popular. And you can repeat a mantra as you're focused on your breathing in and out, in and out. Come back into focus whenever you wander. You can do all that and do it for 5 or 10 minutes. You were in a meditative state. So that would be, in my mind, the first steps of meditation. And if you want to get further from being a beginner, there's a lot of apps out there to meditate. There's the app Headspace, there's Calm, UCLA has an app, mindfulness.com is another app. So I recommend any of these apps highly if you want to put it onto your smartphone and listen to them help you get into a meditative state. Again, just 5-10 minutes of breathing meditation can help you overcome the stress of aging and helping you find more peace and balance. When you achieve that meditative state, I believe you've tapped into your spirit. Thoughts and worries about the future are absent. Meditating several times a day, to me, is like refueling your spiritual tank. It gives you that spiritual energy to cope with the marks of aging. That's the first way of living in that present moment and the most effective way. There's other ways. Avoid multitasking. You need to simplify your life with fewer responsibilities. It's a more calming and peaceful life if you can do that. It allows you to better focus on present moments. A lot of us, when we were younger, bringing up families, working, trying to build a career, and socializing a great deal, we were distracted. And that's fine because we were enjoying life. We took life for what it was. But as you're aging, you've got to simplify your life to some degree. Obviously, you still want some hope. You want some meaningfulness in your life. If you can volunteer and do something meaningful, or even write a book or bake a cake, whatever it is, you want to continue doing it. But you don't want to do 20 things at once. That's not healthy as you age. And if you can simplify that life, avoid multitasking, you'll improve your ability to stay in that present moment. The third way of staying in that present, spend more time with nature. I take long walks. I try as an exercise to walk 10,000 steps a day. But it's not just exercise. It's putting me into a meditative state. If I'm by myself and I'm walking down a tree-lined road and I'm headed towards a pond, my mind is now in a more meditative state and I'm achieving a more present moment than if I were home watching TV or putting away the dishes from the dishwasher. So spending time with nature is another very good way that I would recommend to live in that present. Another would be practice what we learned is called Tai Chi, which is an ancient Chinese tradition that's practiced as a graceful form of exercise. I'll throw Tai Chi and yoga together. Yoga has become extremely popular in the US, but Tai Chi is becoming popular as well. Uh, for older people, the real key here is that it's not an impactful exercise. You don't have to be in great physical shape to practice Tai Chi. It's slow movements of your body. For yoga, if you have trouble with all that stretching and twisting of your body, there's chair yoga, where you're sitting in a chair and doing some of the yoga exercises. So yoga, chair yoga, practicing Tai Chi, those are body meditations, meditation of the body. And that also helps you live in that present moment and touch your spirit. And finally, the last two ways are the obvious ways. Block out past thoughts and don't worry about the future. Both are easier said than done. Very, very difficult. Blocking out past thoughts, don't compare yourself to when you were younger, because it's your ego that longs for past accomplishments. You need to tame your ego, block out your past thoughts. We discussed this in our last session with tapping into your spirit. And I gave you an exercise. I said, tame your ego, hold a picture of your younger self in the mirror and compare to what you look like now. Your ego will long for that young picture. And you may even be sad. You may even have some anger or envy about your younger self. Then take note of how you look like now, whether you're 80, 90 years old, 70 years old. Focus on the wrinkles in your face. Maybe you have some age spots. Maybe there's hair loss or graying of the hair. Whatever it is, those marks of aging should be viewed as a badge of honor. If you can view them as a badge of honor, that you've made it this far in life, you should be proud. There should be some sense of pride in reaching this point in life. And that would be a way to tame your ego and block out your past thoughts. Last but not least, don't worry about the future. Again, that's really easier said than done. It's a difficult one. We're always thinking about the future. We always worry about future events. And when you're getting older, you do worry about finality and you worry about losing your mobility or hearing impairment. Very difficult to completely block out the future. So we're not looking to be perfect. You're going to have distractions. You're going to think about and worry about the future. But take a minute, try to clear your thoughts and stay in that present moment whenever you're getting bogged down in worrying about the future. So those are the ways that we try to live in that present moment, and hopefully one or two of those ways will work for people that are listening today.
So what you're saying is the present moment is a way to avoid the stress and the fear of what is to come, and to not regret what has been, and to stay in the present. Do you have any final thoughts on this important building block to practice positive aging?
If there were ever a time to live in the present and be free of worries about the past or the future, it's when you're growing old. It's when you're aging. It's when you've turned 50 years old and start thinking about and worrying about aging and finality. This is the time. It's the most important time for you to live in that present moment. Living in the present helps us deal with the inconveniences of aging. like acute arthritis, loss of mobility, hearing impairment, memory loss, or even a life-threatening disease or illness, as well as your declining physical appearance. People have an ego. They don't want to see themselves uh, uh, deteriorate and decline physically. They'd like to see their younger selves. So achieving mindfulness is certainly one of the keys to practicing positive aging. And I'll leave I'll close on that positive note.